President Trump asking U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi to fast-track legal action against his political foes. We're talking former FBI head James Comey, Senator Adam Schiff, New York Attorney General Letitia James. On Friday, the U.S. Attorney in Virginia, who was investigating those very people, resigned after Trump threatened to fire him. The president also addressing Bondi on Truth Social on Saturday in what appeared to be a direct message made public, later deleted and cleaned up. It called on Bondi to hire one of Trump's former attorneys as the replacement U.S. attorney. I'm sure we can read some of this for you. I do have it here. It was an extraordinary message because it was
the quiet part out loud, right?
It was the quiet part out loud, and it was messaged to Pam. So that's why you felt like, all right, this is a direct message. I reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. The president urging her to, again, prosecute his political opponents, the very thing that this administration talked about being against during the election. They said the Biden administration was doing the very thing. So it's
and legal scholars are scratching their heads saying we've never really seen anything like this. This is unusual to see the president get this involved with the Attorney General's office. Joining us now to break down the political ramifications is Republican strategist Alison Young. Alison worked at the White House under George W. Bush. Thanks for being here this morning on Connecting America. Now you are a managing partner with the consulting firm RWB Strategies. We appreciate your take on all of this. As Dave just mentioned, President Trump, during the campaign, often accused the Biden administration of weaponizing the DOJ to target him and other Republicans. Now we see him asking his attorney general to do just that with his opponents. Do you think his supporters care or note this hypocrisy?
Well, good morning, guys. It's good to be with you. But you use the correct phrase, right? It's weaponizing the Justice Department. This is precisely, as you said, what the president was complaining about during the Biden administration. And I think what's happening here, I don't know that his supporters really care, because I think this is what Trump supporters, particularly MAGA supporters, have come to expect. You know, the president does have a sense of vengeance and retribution when it comes to his political enemies. It's, I think, one of the challenges here is that when the president issued the statement to Pam Bondi on social media, he linked his personal grievances to it. Had he just said, we need to get our Justice Department moving, we need some of these cases to move along, probably would have been received differently by critics on the left who are always waiting for him to say something like this. But because he linked it to his personal grievances for the cases against him, I think that's when everyone's red flags went up.
How do you see this impacting the independence of the DOJ, and what impact do you think it'll have there?
I don't know that it impacts the independence of the DOJ. What it impacts is the perception. And honestly, guys, that's what's always been the problem, is the public has no more trust in public institutions because of this. I have full faith in the Justice Department. I spent a number of years in the executive branch before I moved over to the White House, and there are great civil servants out there. And I think there are so many checks and balances in the agencies that keep some of these agencies apolitical. But the perception out there is that they're all being used for political retribution now. And I think that harms all of us and our perception of how our government works. It impacts how we trust one another on a daily basis. I mean, think about the conversations you guys probably have on the street, right? So it's the rhetoric is impacting all of us in more of a way than I think the actual work is, because I do think the Justice Department has to remain independent.
What do you expect Pam Bondi to do? Is there even a shred of evidence that Adam Schiff, James Comey, Letitia James did anything remotely illegal?
Well, what's interesting about this, particular to Comey, is that I think the reason, and the New York Times reported this as well, the reason the president's his antennas are up right now about this is because one of the charges against James Comey, or one of the things the president wants to prosecute, is running up against a statute of limitations in about 10 days. So he's starting to get antsy, right? Like, what else is going to get missed because there are procedural things? What's going to stand in the way of some of these cases moving forward? So I think that's why all of a sudden this came out from the president this weekend. But where I think the misstep was he specifically linked it to his own personal grievances about them coming after him and his indictments in the last administration.
In the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, the Attorney General made some comments about hate speech. She walked those back after saying she would go after people for hate speech, and then said, well, it will only be in cases for criminal incitement. But it did bring up concerns from the left, also some Republicans, about free speech protections in the country. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's right. Pam Bondi had a rough weekend, but she's an extraordinary attorney. I think this particular hate speech comment was taken out of context. This comment was on a podcast, and if you listen to, and even her staff in correcting the message afterwards said, if you listen to the prior 4 minutes, she was speaking, as you say, about the rhetoric that incites violence. And I think I think she misspoke a little bit when she just referred to hate speech in general, and people glommed onto that. But I think it's this, we have to walk this fine line between protecting speech in this country, which is so sacred, and protecting vulnerable groups from speech that incites violence and causes harm.
Alison, what do you make of the president saying straight to the cameras that he thinks licenses should be pulled from broadcasters who are, quote, against them? He has doubled and tripled down on that very statement. I have heard only Ted Cruz and Rand Paul say this is a line we cannot cross. Where does this go?
100% agree that this is a line we cannot cross. It's just, there are some things that are so sacred in this country that even in these politically polarized times, we just can't come near. And I think silencing journalists, silencing media, silencing networks has a massive ramification for how the public trusts and sees journalism, how we believe we're being told stories. All of this, whether it's, what we were just talking about, the hate speech, or this is all impacted by social media and what's out there. So we're all going to seek out what we want to hear anyway. So the president saying, let's silence major networks isn't going to stop the flow of information.
Alison, changing topics just slightly, we've been talking a lot about Charlie Kirk and his funeral. That was such a spectacle, such an emotional time. He clearly had a huge following, especially with young voters. Who do you see as someone who could be like him, who could be the next Charlie Kirk and bring more young people to the Republican Party? Is there someone you've identified?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say that there's someone that is going to be just like Charlie Kirk that can step in his place. I have a lot of faith in his widow and Erica's leadership, but I don't know who's going to step in after him. I will say that if you've seen a lot of the coverage of the Turning Point events on college campuses that were supposed to happen in the week following his death, there are a number of young people who are standing up and saying, "I'm going to take this mantle." I think we need to see. Not just who has the desire, but who has the authenticity that Charlie had. Whether you love him or hate him, he was a great communicator. And I think what we saw yesterday was, it was more testimony to his faith, and, the conservative movement's going to take Turning Point where they're going to take it. But I think, the funeral and all the celebrations around him have really shown that he was a man of deep and abiding faith. And I think that's the legacy that will carry on for Charlie Kirk.
All right, Alison Young, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
RWB Strategies, really nice having her.
Yes.
I think it's a good question. I've spent a lot of time looking through new media. I focus a lot on it. I don't think there's anyone even close to accomplishing and having the following that Charlie had, the authenticity, to Alison's point. Ironically, the only person that I see pop up and up and up and up is J.D. Vance. Unfortunately, he is the vice president. So he might be the only person that could continue that mantle, but let's hope he's a little too busy for that job. There will be a massive void that won't go filled, I don't think.
Well, and at the same time, the Democrats need somebody young to spark their young base.
Oh, I don't think there's anything close on the left either. No.
Right. I mean, young people
that's a very good point.
Feel disenfranchised.
Well, we certainly should mention AOC, who can galvanize young people like no one on the left, together with Bernie Sanders. That they can bring crowds together like no one in politics short of Donald Trump.